And what I found out for myself is the commercial nature of the system. I was a jailhouse lawyer and a very good one to help people get out of jail and everything. And when I became a jailhouse lawyer, I it wasn't I wasn't intending to do that. That wasn't something I was looking to do. I was trying to help my situation. I was having a situation and I didn't know anything, so I was reading and studying. And other inmates used to come by and they would see me and they say, "Oh, gee, you know, you're a lawyer, you know the law." You know, I said, "I know a little something. Can you help me with my situation?" Blah, 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 blah. You know, well, I said, "Well, you know, you got your discovery? What, you know, what is that? You don't have your discovery? You don't got a copy of your indictment or anything like that?" So then I started helping everybody get copies of their indictment, you know, writing a letter to the clerk. It is my understanding that I am entitled to one free copy of my discovery. Would you please forward such discovery to the following address? It's 2 pages. You know, did a lot of those to the clerk and got people's discovery, you know, get the discovery back. The first thing I'm looking at is the indictment. I want to know if it's been signed by a grand jury foreman. You know, a lot of indictments aren't even signed by a grand jury foreman. A lot of indictments, you know, are rubber stamped. You know, I remember one time I sent in an indicted release for 60 inmates at the same time, and they all came back the next day indicted. I know a grand jury didn't listen to 60 cases in one day. Come on, Georgia, quit, you know, who you fooling? If you're an attorney, you know it's rubber stamped. It's rubber stamped. Y'all treat this thing like McDonald's, man. Y'all running people through the drive-thru. And it's just a matter of course, and you don't really think about it anymore. You know, I see the game for what it is, and we're going to talk about that in depth today. But in the course of doing that and reading indictments, I came to find this thing, especially on the federal level in particular, I came to find that there seemed to be this common theme in all the indictments, in particular on drug cases, and that was they always would have contained in there violated interstate commerce. And so I'll keep seeing that, but now I never would have paid attention to that if prior to that, a major, he wasn't a deputy, he was a major, he was a sheriff, and he was telling me, you know, "Jones, you know, you always talking about the Constitution. I bet you ain't never even read the Constitution," which a lot of you out there haven't either. A lot of you so-called patriots. How you going to be a patriot? You never read the Constitution. How you going to pick a party like Democrat or Republican and you haven't read the Constitution and don't understand it? It's beyond me. The word democracy is nowhere in the Constitution. But anyway, so when he said that to me, it made me read the Constitution. And when I got to Article 1, Section 8, that's where things really started to, a lot of light bulbs started to go off for me. Because I'm reading the powers that have been delegated to Congress. Now, prior to that, you know, there's this thing back then where people were talking about the fringe, the gold fringe on the flag, and they said that's an admiralty flag. This is a military tribunal. You know, you hear all those type of things that people were saying. And so in my studies, I came across Article 1 courts and Article 3 courts. But I was reading the powers of Congress, and I said, well, they have the power in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 to regulate commerce. They have the power, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9, to institute tribunals that are inferior to the Supreme Court. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, their powers of 10 Mile Square and all of their auxiliary insular possessions as well, like Guam, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, you know, those things. And so I'm reading all of this, and I'm developing a foundation. And that's why I tell all of you, you want to start somewhere, start with the Constitution. You have to start with the Constitution because the ambit of their delegated authority is derived from that document. And please don't sit here and say that the Constitution is dead. It's not dead. It can never die. The Constitution gave birth to this fake Constitution. Without the real Constitution, the fake Constitution couldn't exist. Because the fake Constitution is a product of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Because constitutions are used to create corporations. Now, you would know that if you took the time to look up the word Constitution in a Black's Law Dictionary, and I say around the 5th sense of the word, you'll get that definition. Under, I think it would probably be under parliamentary law. So when you start seeing, when you start understanding these things, you start kind of understanding how you can have a government inside of a government, how the Constitution allows for a government inside of a government. Because the United States is separate. It is separate. It's what they call that's what they call the territories. Before a state becomes a state, it's a territory first. And when it's a territory, it's under the plenary power of Congress. Now, plenary means all powerful, meaning the power that's been delegated to them by the Constitution, nothing supersedes it. Not another branch of government. They cannot infringe upon that. They have all authority and all power over that object of the authority that was delegated to them. You got to understand this so you can understand the concept of how a government can operate inside of a government, what you call the de jure government and the de facto government, which de facto doesn't mean unconstitutional. You need to go get American jurisprudence and understand what de facto means. De facto doesn't mean it's unlawful. De facto just means you acquiesce to it. That's all it means when you say de facto. So when you get this foundation down and you start reading people's paperwork and you study something called the Statute Merchant by Edward I in 13, and you read that, it's going to say the commercial bond so established. Get that in the Black's Law Dictionary, and you will find that at the second sense of the word, the commercial bond so established. And you start looking at people's discovery and you see filings of commercial bonds. Like, damn, I just read that in Statute Merchant, and right here in this discovery, why are they filing a commercial bond on this criminal case? Wow, okay, all right. Then I'm reading the indictment, and they have violated interstate commerce. Well, Congress has the authority over interstate commerce, not the other two branches. And what is this law that they keep talking about? What is law? What is law? Law has authority and power to operate within a certain jurisdiction. Because we have something called judge-made law, which you call common law also. That is something that the Supreme Court promulgates. And then we have statutory law. Okay? So how do I know which law is operating? Do they interact with each other? You know, do they complement each other in any kind of way? You know, this was the road the course that I decided to take to try to decipher all of this, try to find out and figure out, well, how does all of this stuff interact with each other? You know, how did they get this authority? Did they truly fool us? I'm like, well, no, I have to tell you, if you're a sovereign, I got to take accountability for that. So I'm never going to put that on them that, well, I got fooled. That's why there's a Roman maxim that says, he who can be fooled, let him. So I can't pass that off on them. I wore this badge L on the end of my name. I'm a God. I can't never put that off on them. So I got to take accountability and responsibility for that. I got to accept responsibility for that. I got to understand that nothing comes in my space if I didn't think about it. It's called the law of attraction. I am a God. I create my reality. I can't say that in the next step, say that, well, I didn't ask for this over here. I'm creating my reality voluntarily as well as involuntarily. And unfortunately, many people are creating their reality involuntarily.